Okay, perfect. Good evening, everyone. We can start, just keeping in mind the time. Uh, I'm Pallavi. I'm the co-founder of Asian Pathfinders, along with Shreya Deshmukh. So, welcome to another edition of our dialogues. Today, we are going to discuss India's cybersecurity landscape 2021 and beyond. We have a great panel for you. So, we do look forward to engaging with all our participants as always. Please put in your questions and everything in the chat section and stay on mute just to reduce the noise. And if you know anyone who's missed the session, we'll have it on YouTube. So you can always share the link. So about us, for the ones who don't know, who are joining us for the first time, we are a knowledge sharing platform. We started in 2020. We hold weekly discussions on various contemporary issues. So we hold it through two different mediums. One is fireside chats, which is on every Saturday at 11 a.m. And the dialogues, which is today, it is a format of a panel discussion where we invite speakers on a specific topic, and that's held every alternate Thursdays. We do aim to keep it informal. We encourage everyone to ask, discuss, reach out to us if you have anything to contribute. So do that, definitely. So about our upcoming sessions, obviously, I know Shreyas will put in the links in the chat section. This Saturday, we have a fireside chat on outlook for India-China relations in 2021. That's with Professor Srikant Kondapalli, who is the professor in Chinese studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University. And continuing our focus, this year we are trying to focus more on issues related to technology and everything. So, and data privacy. So we also have Advocate Puneet Bhasi next Saturday, who will be speaking on data privacy and information governance landscape in India. And we are also glad to announce, actually, we have Ambassador Ralph Heckner, who is the Swiss ambassador to India and Bhutan, who will be speaking in February. He'll be speaking on Switzerland's role in the global and digital governance. And we have a lot of assembly elections coming up in India, Kerala, Assam, West Bengal. I tend to lose track of the states. But we have Dr. Suhas Parshikar, who will be speaking on this entire outlook for a political environment of India in 2021. That's on February 6th. So do reach out to us, or we definitely drop in an email to you, but also on social media. You should be able to find more information about it. So that's about it. And yeah, one thing I did forget to mention that in our upcoming sessions in March, we are actually holding a series of discussions on women-centric issues on the occasion of International Women's Day. So the entire month is going to be dedicated to that aspect on various topics, basically. But yeah, uh, in terms of the guidelines, I know we all are professionals. We don't need to be told, but just respect the views of others. Please refrain from using any defamatory languages, abusive languages. Let's have a healthy discussion. And obviously, if there is some intellectual property conflict here and you want to use the content, reach out to the speakers. Simple there. And how to reach me and Shreyas, you can just find us on social media or Asian Pathfinders. So moving on to today's session, like I said, it is on India's cybersecurity landscape. We have four amazing thought leaders joining us today, and we also have Shravan Vadagiri, who will be moderating the session. So Shravan is a cybersecurity professional experienced in information security audits and assessments, digital forensic investigations, information governance, and cybersecurity incident response and management. He's currently the Associate Director for Cybersecurity Services at Virtue Group, which is based in Gurgaon. It's a Swedish startup which works on 5G technology. And here he is leading the cybersecurity vertical, where his role is to design and implement information governance cycle for the 5G telecom core applications and products. He's also working on developing and security IoT applications from a cybersecurity perspective. Prior to Virtue Group, Shravan has worked as a cybersecurity professional for KPMG, EY, Ericsson, among others. So I think he's a good person to moderate this session, and I will hand over to him right now. So over to you, Shravan.
I would like to thank you, Pallavi, Shreyas, and Team Asian Pathfinders for inviting me today. I am very much delighted to moderate this session with industry thought leaders Pawan Desai, Dr. Lopamudra Basu, Manoj Kurvanthodi, and Kazim Rizvi on India's cybersecurity landscape and Threat Intelligence 2021 and beyond. There is a famous quote by the former CEO of Cisco, John Chambers. I would like to start this session with this quote because this is very much relevant to our session today. So the quote goes this way. There are two types of companies, those that have been hacked and those who do not know that they have been hacked. For me, this quote echoes the cyber environment that we operate in. The cybersecurity space has evolved over the years and come to be treated on nearly equal footing and at times ahead of the conventional crime on the ranking list. Today, as we speak, every organization, institution, and individual, irrespective of the domain or the field that they are working in, are dependent on digital media and the internet. Companies, be it large or small, remain under the constant threat of cyber attacks. It's not about if that they are going to be breached, but how best can they put their cyber defenses to mitigate such threats. We as individuals and organizations live our lives in cyber world, but still are worried about the data, privacy, and security issues. To give you a classic example, which is very recent, the recent controversy over WhatsApp privacy policy, right? That should give you a very good example and set the stage. Every organization and institution have policies around information security, asset security, acceptable usage, and many other security policies to ensure that their data or information, people, networks, and infrastructure are safe from any sort of cyber attacks. Making these policies and defense systems robust is how organizations work on mitigating cyber threats. As a result, security teams are getting up and are on their toes all the time and continuously monitoring, gathering intelligence related to all the upcoming attacks and mitigating strategies for these attacks. Now, COVID-19 has accelerated the dependency on as well as the threats related to cyber world. If we look at the cybercrime trends, the incidents have been on a rise at a rapid pace. However, interestingly, most of the crimes are related to cyber, which are related to cyber, are unique, sophisticated, and challenging for the organizations and individuals to respond to these attacks, not only to respond, but to investigate and mitigate. In my years of experience of working in this field of investigating the cyber crimes, I have found this aspect both challenging as well as strong learning experience. Moving from global cybersecurity and environment to India, which is the focus of our discussion today. India has 560 million users and is the second largest internet user base. India has faced the second highest number of cyber attacks between 2000 and 2018. The state of cybersecurity in India is one that needs constant vigilance. As per a survey report during COVID-19, security experts observed a 500% rise in number of cyber attacks and security breaches, and also 3 to 4% rise in number of phishing attacks from March when the lockdown started till June 2020. These numbers are staggering, and this makes today's discussion even more relevant as organizations move in 2021. Now, without taking much time, I will introduce our panelists today to share their thoughts and experiences on today's dialogue on India's cybersecurity landscape 2021 and beyond. We have four industry thought leaders sharing their knowledge on four aspects of Indians cybersecurity. Each panelist will speak for about 10 to 12 minutes, and at the 11th minute, I will give them a nudge to finish in a minute. Request all the participants to stay on mute, except for that of the panelists who are speaking. Do put your questions and comments in the chat section. We will take the questions after our panelists have spoken. Do also let us know to whom the question is directed to. First, I will call on Mr. Pavan Desai, co-founder and CEO of Midcat Advisory Services, to share his insights on future threat landscape, actors and intelligence. I will introduce each speaker as they come. Commander Pavan Desai is an alumni of Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies and IVLP Fellow, US State Department. Pawan has 25 plus years of experience in the security risk management domain. He has been involved in initial setup and growth of Mahindra Group Consulting Company in the domain of cybersecurity before co-founding Midcat Advisory Services. Currently, he is the CEO and responsible for Midcat's P&L and future global aspirations. He has led several high-profile, complex, and multi-dimensional risk consultancy assignments with industry leaders across verticals for more than 100 plus blue chip companies. A distinguished ex-Indian Navy officer with specialization in submarine operations. He is an acknowledged thought leader in security risk management and a staunch supporter of convergence of cyber and physical security domains in future. He also speaks regularly at prestigious forums like OSAC, ACSG, ACES, BCI, Jury of Care, etc. He likes to give back to next generation by being a regular visiting faculty at Symbiosis International University, Nasim Auji Institute of Management Studies, and many other premium management institutes. As a part of Digital India initiative, he has been deeply involved with industry body in training of more than 1,000 plus people on cyber safety awareness and certification. Now the stage is yours, Pawan.
Thanks a lot, Shravan. I think thanks a lot for kind introduction. So as Pallavi has taken 1 minute, so I'll take 1 minute less. Surely I'll not take 10 minutes. But the topic which you have mentioned is a very broad topic. I think the future, how does the future, I'm not a Nostradamus, so I don't know what I'm going to speak is going to be true or not, but based on what I see and what we hear, and I would like to, I think, just put a threat landscape, what exists currently, and what is my understanding on this subject, and where the intelligence and where the threat intelligence as a vector is going to be can be utilized more effectively. So first and foremost is the threat landscape. I think my basic, as I said initially also, the speed of change is so fast that a classical way we do a risk assessment of a typical, when we say risk is a combination of threat, vulnerability, and impact kind of thing. That is a very, I think I'll say not a rudimentary, but a very reactive way of doing the risk assessment. So what is happening, we are essentially missing out on a very essential aspect of in a threat landscape of the intent and the capability of the adversary. And most of the organizations currently, if you see, have a very rudimentary way of doing their risk assessment. That is the reason why we cannot, when we are identifying a threat landscape for an organization, they are not taking into account the intent and the capability of the adversary into picture. So I think the first paradigm shift has to be in terms of the way we are looking at the entire the paradigm in which we are doing the risk assessment for organization. It has to be more forward looking then a historic, because most of the researcher, pardon me, because there are a lot of PhDs and researchers here, they love to have the data on the back end, what has happened in the back. But cybersecurity, I think we'll have to do more forward-looking risk assessments, and what lies in the stores. Then only we'll be able to do it effectively. So with that thing in mind, it is the factors and the vectors of intent and capability is a very, very important aspect. When I talk about intent, I can classify the entire threat landscape into three categories. One is an activism category, where people do it either for maybe love for their country, not maybe hate for some specific companies, it can be for fun or whatever the reason might be. We have seen the classical example of maybe Sony hack, which happened. It was very more patriotism kind of so it is a very different kind of an attack. Classical risk assessment will never identify those kind of threats which is there. Second domain will be more towards cyber crimes. Yes, a lot of work happens in cyber crime. It is more towards financial gain. It doesn't matter wherever I can get it, I will take it. So classical example of your not maybe Maze as an example, which happened early this year. It was a classical ransomware attack. It hit the biggest companies. It's a different thing, but it is more of for financial gains. It is not specifically attacked on those. So the attack vectors are different. The kind of mitigation measures what we need to take are very different on that. And the last part, not least, is a geopolitical. And that is where I think none of the risk assessments take geopolitics angle into their risk assessment. The things are the relationship between countries, their capabilities, their intent is a very powerful indicator in which how we are going to go. Any changes in policy, suddenly you see the cybercrime or maybe attacks going high against one country, or a change of maybe political scenario externally has a huge impact on the companies internally. And I see this as the biggest vector, because this is a very asymmetric warfare. This is something I always like to say. It's a sort of a sumo wrestler fighting a lightweight. You are going to fail. There is no way. Only thing is how much can you stand against that sumo wrestler. It is there, because the state-sponsored attacks are going to have endless resources. As an organization, we can only put so much. We cannot put beyond a point of time. So I think now all the threat vectors combined, if we start looking our threat landscape from activism, cyber crimes, and more from geopolitics, I think the picture what will come will be very different. An example of maybe geopolitics will be a non-Petya. Essentially, it was an attack from Russia towards Ukraine, but there was so much of a collateral damage which happened, which was unintentional kind of a thing. And that is where I think we need to be worried about more on that, because it's an asymmetric warfare. So I think the first portion, what Shravan asked you, I think it is more on the threat landscape, I'll say. So first, landscape has to change in which we look at the risk. We have to stop looking at a risk from a threat perspective. We have to start looking from a intent and a motivation and the capability perspective. The entire picture, what we'll start seeing, will be very different. And in this aspect, the collaboration will be very defense in isolation. So they are not collaborating with each other. And unless they start collaborating with each other, the attacks which are coming from the geopolitical angle, which is a very asymmetric warfare, I think organizations will never be able to survive those kind of attacks. It has to be a combination. What you said, ekta ki takat, I think what is a phrase, what is used, we have to come together. Then only we'll be able to stop that. So that is what is my first point in the threat landscape, that we have to start looking inversely. Currently, we are looking very risk specific. We have to start looking from the other side of the whole landscape and see it very differently. What will happen when we start looking at from that angle is currently the whole aspect of cyber defense is first prevent, then detect, and then react. The whole dimension will change. It has to be, because you are going to get attacked, you are going to get hit. That is a given thing which is there. It has to be more focus has to be on detection and reaction, and lesser on I'll not say this thing, but comparatively lesser on prevention. So just an example, it might not be right in each case, but if you have 100 rupees Currently, most of the organizations put 60, 70 rupees in prevention and maybe 10 rupees in detection and 20 rupees in detection. The whole investment has to change. You have to put 50, 60 rupees in detection. Because if you are able to detect, you will be able to react or survive. The prevention is just one bypass mechanism. It is going to be bypassed at some point of time. So that's what I said. Threat landscape, we have to look at differently. And the way we do a reaction has to be detection first, then reaction, and then prevention. All three has to happen, but in that different order. So that is what I feel when you talk about the threat. The second aspect of intelligence, I think it's a gold mine. Actually, it's an amazing thing, and I don't think so. Most of us have been able to proactively use the threat intelligence. A lot of companies are trying to create their own programs, their own which is there. It will happen, but I think it has to be collaborated. It has to be used as a service, because you cannot. It's like creating or your own expertise beyond a point you will not be able to create it. So it has to be left to experts, people who are really into the cyber intelligence kind of a domain. There are great companies. There are great Indian companies. There are great global players. So it is more about proactiveness and preventiveness. The more proactive and more preemptive we are into that, we may be able to predict and we may be able to react to the whole thing. So the whole aspect of cyber intelligence, I think I was studying one of the reports. The cyber intelligence market is almost $2.3 billion, and it is growing at a 14.1 CAGR. Is one of the fastest growing market. So it is going to be almost 5.6 billion dollar market by 2025 kind of thing. So that is the amount of investment which is going into those tools, because it is humanly impossible to do those kind of things. It has to be AI based. It has to be ML, AI, everything has to be integrated in that. And the focus of towards having a posture which is using cyber intelligence and then creating mitigation strategies. Because what happens is we buy all the tools in house, and then there is no money left to buy intelligence. Unless we have intelligence, we won't be able to react or prevent that. I think so. Cyber intelligence has to be a most essential part of the first line of defense for any organizations if we have to be effective in future. I am not talking about today's environment. I am talking about future environments. I think that is going to be the most important aspect. I think I would just like to restrict my comments to that. I think Pallavi, I hope I am not taking more time than allotted to me, just to set the tone on this.
Yeah. This is good. Shravan, over to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You manage your time very well, and you are dot. Right. So yes, I mean, as you said, I mean, these are really valuable inputs, and as you said, there is a lot of things when it comes to the cyber intelligence aspect of it. So many people think having only a SIEM or a SOC environment will suffice, but that is not today's reality and the case, right? So there are many other aspects which every organization or the institution have to look into to, I mean, to mitigate any sort of cyber threat, right? So we'll come back to you with more questions, sir. Thank you so much. So now I'll call upon Dr. Lopamudra Basu to share her insights on cyber security response management. So Lopa is currently the Vice President, ISM Cybersecurity and Technology Controls at JP Morgan Chase. Dr. Basu is a veteran in cybersecurity with 2 decades of experience in different sectors that include BFSI, ITES, automotive, and manufacturing. She holds a master's degree in information technology and Doctor of Excellence in cyber risk management, along with required industry certifications like Global CIO, CCISO, CRISC, DPO, Cyber Strategist, Certified Ethical Hacker, DevSecOps Engineer, and so on. She held leadership roles in Fortune 500 companies.
She has been awarded as Most Inspiring 10 Digital and Tech Leaders of India, Indian Achievers Award 2020, India's Top 20 Security Influencers, and several others. She is an international speaker, also serves on various global advisory boards and judging committees. Shattering the glass ceiling, an advocate of women in cyber, she accepts challenges, mentoring, and working for improving the quality of cybersecurity and enterprise risk governance professionals on the global stage. So, Dr. Lopa, the stage is yours now.
Thank you, Shravan, for the kind introduction. So, when it is coming to specifically cyber incident management, it is very important to understand one fact that cyber incident management is not only managing the cyber breaches. Incident response is having two parts. One is managing the incident effectively, another is managing the breaches. So take a little background, look at the different aspect of that. To stay secure in this modern connected world, business must keep track in all emerging cybersecurity threat and assess the potential business impact on that. And it is based on two kinds of things. One which they have already experienced, and another are the scenarios which they are coming across from the similar ecosystem of the business or different ecosystem. Now coming to this particular approach, which is very important when it is coming to cyber response, is based on what ecosystem you are operating from. So when and what kind of threat actors are there. So if we look at the current COVID-19 and post-COVID, pre and post COVID-19, we can see that the huge use of cloud, actually it is cloud use got accelerated in many fold. People are working from home, as well as with this, we can see that uses of automation and is increasing. Use of IoT is also increasing. And business is adopting new way to conduct the business. With that, the threat vectors also emerging with a new phase. So if we look at phishing attack is exponentially increasing, but they are become more smart. With the use of AI, we can see that the pattern of weaponization is changing continuously. When industry is using a huge machine learning and automation, we can also see the ML is become a new area where focus is more. Organizations are going more and more connecting, using more system which are at enterprise level. So you compromise with one system and it will be a more easy to get or penetrate to the other system using the one, because earlier system are quite isolated. Now they are actually connected. And obviously the focus is moving to the network edge from the core network. So considering that, organization need a multi-pronged approach to protect the people, system, and data from the cyber attack. And cyber response management play a key role. This should cover everything from the risk assessment to protective monitoring, preventive monitoring, or reactive. And also it should build the capability to preventive. So when it is coming to the security response, there are focus in preventive, yes, But to build a effective approach, we need to have three buckets, that is reactive, detective, and preventive. To have a proper incident response mechanism in place, we need to focus on few areas. One and most critical thing is understanding the organizational business, the ecosystem of the business, geographical location you are touching, priorities of the business, technology stack with you, security and risk culture within the business. So based on this angle, we need to have a effective strategy on place. When it is coming to the strategy, there are certain areas we need to focus on while building the strategy. One is the incident response plan should be simple, easily understandable during the crisis situation, but it should be accurate. Proper roles and responsibilities are identified, and people are trained to handle their roles and responsibility. Next is bringing together the technical and non-technical team. When it is coming to the response part of the incident, in case of breach, you need to work with your different vertical of business. You need to work with your legal team, your communication team. So we need to have that particular plan beforehand and how to roll out those plan during the crisis situation. We need to have a playbook in place considering those areas, provide the proper classification framework of incident, and train the people on that. People who are actually going to handle the incident, they need to focus on that area to understand the severity of the incident, attack vector, impact, and how it is going to overhaul impact on the business. So accordingly, they can propose the future remediation plan. And now coming to the business priority and creating the culture, as I mentioned earlier, that is most important. Based on all this aspect, we need to create those strategy. Now, when we have a strategy in place, it is time to execute. When we do the execution, we need to have a clarity that what are the phases of execution and how we are going to execute it. So first phase is the preparation, where it is going to help us to understand the strategy and the planning part of that. Then it is the detection and reporting, threat and analysis, containment and neutralization, post-incident activity. Now coming to the preparation phase, developing and documenting our response policy is very important. And while we are going to do that, we need to look at clear business alignment, the way different function is working, how we are going to get engaged with them. So we need to have a proper engagement plan with each of those functions which are going to play a critical role. While doing the incident management, it is very important that we need to look at the business continuity and disaster recovery plan of the organization, as well as the practices already practiced within the organization, because there is no point of reinventing the wheel, because business continuity and disaster recovery team is having lots of practices, established practices, which we can directly adopt within our incident response plan. And we can do a fine tuning using the technology aspect. Then establish that policy procedure and have a arrangement with the different department within the organization, as well as the third parties going to be get engaged during this activity, or the law enforcement authorities you need to take support from. Also, do a complete due diligence with your legal team, because some cases you may have a reporting requirement. Then we need to work with the communication team to create a proper communication guideline, and how we are going to collaborate under the disaster. But most importantly, we need to have a clear strategy to incorporate the threat intelligence feed. From where we are going to collect those threat intelligence is very important, or play a very critical role in incident response. How you are going to analyze that, that is the second step. But if we are not able to get the overall coverage of the organizational log, as well as threat intelligence fit related to those areas, then it is maybe a kind of partial response to the while we are building the preventive capability or detective capability. Conducting the hunting exercise, if you are capable to do that, because it is not really mandatory that everybody is having that hunting capability effectively. You can take support from the third party based on your capability and the skill you have in-house. Assessment of your threat detection capability is very important, because you build the effectiveness in this area based on the assessment. So the key is exercise, 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 have the playbook and make it more effective. Now, then once you build this capability, that is detective or reactive, or could be it is preventive, what is important that how you monitor, how do you report it, how you generate the alert, and how you are actually taking it to the next step, that is the Trojan analysis. Once you move to the Trojan and analysis phase, then there are different type of analysis going on. That is could be your binary analysis, your endpoint analysis, enterprise-wide hunting. Based on your organization capability, you can have that in-house, or you may take the support from the third party. Once you are able to detect it, it is very important that you have a phased action plan to control that and neutralize them, and learn from that to ensure that that incident is not recurringly triggered within the organization. Use those incidents to build the intelligence and the awareness within the organization.
So, Dr. Lopa, sorry to cut you, but can you conclude in next 1 minute, please?
Sure. So actually, I'm coming to that area only. Next is your post-incident activity. When it is coming to the post-incident activity, it is very important that you can report the incident effectively within the time, monitor the post-incident phase of your entire organization, that how it is moving, and then again do a kind of assessment and take the learning to make the this entire process and very effective, as well as create awareness. Important is that also that we should not neglect the tools what we are using and the technology which we are using for this entire incident response. We need to have people who are effectively trained to handle those and administrate those tools. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Lopa. And yes, I mean, when it comes to incident response and incident management, many companies, in my experience, I have seen, they fail to strategize and how to go about the response aspect when it comes to during any of the incidents. So to add to
Sure.
what you have mentioned,
Sorry.
like anyone during this incident response or management phase, one should be asking the basic six questions, in fact, which is 5 Ws and H. So I believe, coming from an investigation background, I believe like once anyone is able to answer these 5 Ws and H, uh, they have all the answers to their questions, which concludes their investigation and also gives them a roadmap to how to fix or detect such vulnerabilities in future. Right. So now I
Shravan,
invite,
sorry,
yes,
Shravan.
Pallavi.
Sorry to cut you. If you don't mind, I apologize, Manoj. Kazim has to leave because he has some urgent meeting at 6:30. So if you don't mind flipping,
Yeah, sure,
sorry
sure, no
about
problem,
that. I
no
know.
problem. Go ahead,
Sorry
Shiva.
about that. We'll have
Thank
Kazim
you.
first,
All right.
and then
So thank you so
yeah.
much, Manoj, and thanks, Pallavi, for bringing that up. Yes, and Kazim had told me that he has a hard stop at 6:30. So let me introduce Kazim now. So Kazim is a founding director of the Dialogue, a public policy think tank based out of New Delhi. He is one of the leading voices in India's tech policy discourse and closely engages with the government and other stakeholders on matters of such policy areas. The dialogue works in the intersection of public policy, technology, and society. So Kazim will be talking about the topic beyond the cyber headlines. Kazim, it's all yours now.
Thank you, Shravan. Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shravan, and thank you, Pallavi, for that. Really glad that you guys let me speak before Mr. Manoj. But thank you for the introduction. Very kind. So I've been asked to speak on beyond cyber headlines, and I look at the policy issues which have been plaguing cybersecurity and why we need to look not just on the headlines but look beyond and what can we do to actually make India a more cyber secure nation. So number one, if you look at COVID, and we've seen that in the last year, 37% increase in cyber attacks due to COVID. So a lot more people are coming online and a lot more people are facing challenges. Now, India's National Cybersecurity Coordinator, Mr. Dr. Pant, described 2020 as a year that was good for cyber criminals and bad for financial and payment security because India has experienced a lot of cyber attacks. And I think he's also mentioned that India is coming up with a cybersecurity policy. So we are looking at a new cybersecurity policy, which will look at very sustained attacks that are taking place on the Indian soil. A lot of them are coming in from adversarial nations, especially China. Uh, Another point which is important to understand is the fact that there are talks going on in the IT Act, where the government is looking at amending it and looking at some nuanced provisions for securing India's cyberspace. Current legislations are not enough for India to be able to meet its cybersecurity challenges when it comes to the new emerging coordinated attacks that we are seeing. So we need a system which is far more intelligent and far more nuanced than what we have. Beyond the obvious threats, what have improved the technology we are using? And encryption has become fundamentally critical towards all across services. You look at messaging, you look at emails, you look at, I think Zoom also has encryption. A lot of applications are bringing in encryption. And even the government introduced an app for messaging for military, which is end-to-end encrypted. So going forward, in order to secure the physical infrastructure, we need encryption to be there fundamentally, number one. Number two, pandemic is on the rise and internet-based platforms are required for both necessity and entertainment, which is why it is important that people are aware of what are the challenges they might face on the internet. So a lot of the times we see that people don't look at the settings, people don't look at the way apps are connected in the phone, what kind of information you're giving out to the apps, have you updated the software, latest software. So a lot of awareness work has to on great thinking happening by the government. They are very proactive, extremely smart people. And what we're looking at is a dedicated legislation for cybersecurity. And even though the IT Act defines cybersecurity as a dedicated legislation, is coming in with the emerging challenges of this ecosystem will be helpful. And the government is also looking, probably could come up with a second legislation under section 87 of the IT Act to deal with peculiar concern of cybersecurity. Another important point which we need to do is
Kazim,
the
just a
existing
second.
cybersecurity framework of India. Yeah.
Yeah, Kazim, just a second. Sorry, it seems like your network is a bit slow, so you can continue talking while you switch off your video.
Okay.
That improves bit.
Yeah. So what I was saying was that there is a dedicated legislation requirement for cybersecurity, number one. Number two, we need to strengthen the existing cybersecurity framework, which means that national cybersecurity projects such as National Cyber Coordination Center, National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, and the Computer Emergency Response Team, CERT, have to be strengthened and reviewed periodically going forward. Number three is we need to promote encryption to support to secure India's cyberspace and ensure protection from threats of foreign espionage. Be it online banking, e-commerce, or chatting with our loved ones over the internet, encryption is the first line of defense when it comes to ensuring privacy and security of the citizens to protect us from the threats of foreign surveillance, especially the challenges from China. Then another point which we need to look at is bringing cybersecurity in education. So education institutions, including central universities, private universities, industry association, ITIs must incorporate courses on cybersecurity. Then we need an integrated approach. Given the increasing dominance of mobile and telecommunication, both national cybersecurity policy, which is going to come hopefully this year, and the national telecom policy should be considered to be effectively goals to make a comprehensive policy for 2030. So we need a more integrated approach between different policies. Then we also need to promote indigenization. There is a need to create opportunities for developing software to safeguard cybersecurity and digital communications. And here I propose that government should look at considering cybersecurity architecture under the Make in India program. Also, there is a need to create suitable hardware on a unique Indian pattern that can serve localized needs. These are the two key importance. Another point is creating awareness, as I spoke about it earlier, where countries resorting to digital warfare and hackers targeting business organization and government processes. India must create awareness that not a single person institution is immune to it. While the government and corporate world are better placed to create their own programs, it is the civil society, organizations like yours and others, that need to take the lead towards this campaign. Along with this, we've also seen that cybersecurity is becoming more and more mainstream. It is important that we look at 2021, where we can safeguard our payment system. Now, for example, the data breach in Big Basket is just one of the issues where you had 2 crore users' ID put on the dark web, person data was breached, and SBI forgot to secure one of its servers with a password leading to 3 million unwanted text messages. Fake UPI IDs have been created, and similar name to the official UPI PM cares fund. So a lot of issues are taking place, real-time issues are taking place. Cyberspace crimes are diverse, they are multi-domain and multi-location, multilingual, multicultural, and therefore it is difficult to investigate. So we have to be able to develop technology that can help in tracing the crime. And lastly, I think what we definitely need is a very strong data protection law, which will protect the privacy of the citizens. And with that, hopefully this year, a very strong cybersecurity policy for 2021, which meets the requirements of this modern era. Thank you.
So thank you, Kazim, for that overview on Beyond the Cyber Headlines. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to call Manoj. And first of all, thank you so much, Manoj, for accommodating the change in the order. Now, Manoj will be speaking on cybersecurity skill gap. He is currently the group head, cybersecurity strategy and governance at Infosys. Manoj comes with over 21 plus years of diverse experience in design, development, implementation, and leading of solutions, and services for global corporates in cybersecurity strategy, governance, risk and compliance, cybersecurity audits, mergers and acquisitions, cybersecurity metric programs, and board reporting. IT security and security architecture, privacy, cyber resilience, vendor risk management, program management, service delivery management, and thought leadership. Manoj has earlier worked with global organizations such as EY and Maastricht, besides the others. He is a regular panelist and moderator in various industry forums such as Data Security Council of India, which is popularly known as DSCI, CISO platform, Dynamic CISO, and also Information Security Management Group, which is known as, in short, ISMG, etc. So now the stage is all yours, Manoj. Please share your thoughts on the skills gap related to the cybersecurity.
Thanks, Javan. No problem. I think cousin had a requirement, so I thought it's good to swap. So that's good. Okay, great. So the topic is on cyber skill gap, right? So it's I would say it's a vastly underrated topic. Organizations are, running pillar to post to meet their cybersecurity demands, and they are facing this, resourcing crunch, irrespective of how small or large the organization is. Talking about statistics, I think it is said that we presently have around 4 million, gap in cybersecurity professionals globally, right? So that is a huge gap in the demand and supply side of it, if you want to look at it that way. I think the entire ecosystem has to change or need to undergo a large overhaul to be able to meet such a requirement globally. So I will try to give you the global perspective and to start with, and then we'll gradually narrow it down to how it can be looked at from an organization perspective. So one is the education system itself, where we need to bring in cybersecurity at a very early stages of education so that we can groom in individuals with that kind of a skill set, right? So that is something which needs to be brought in by institutions globally. Now, gradually, that many of these universities are coming out with MTech in cybersecurity and PG diploma in so and so area and so on. Because if you look at it, one of the students was saying that in the 7th and 8th or 5th standard and so on, they are being taught Microsoft Word 2007 right now in 2020, right? So that is where that education system to the requirement kind of a syllabus gap itself exists, right? It has to be more relevant and so on. That is one. Again, similarly on the colleges front, in the university front as well. Generally, as we all have gone through our own education systems, and we have seen that the syllabus that we have learned is many a times ancient, right? They will be using the same book which were taught by the lecturers themselves, right? That kind of a stuff. So that is on the education front. Secondly, I feel vendors also need to promote cybersecurity much more than they do now. Now, what you will see is that each of the security vendors will have their own YouTube channels or many promotional methods to bring in awareness on how their product can be used to solve a particular set of cybersecurity problems. But that is not necessarily giving you a broader cybersecurity learning per se. It's just that making you some kind of an expert in that particular product, or just giving that glimpse of what that product's capability is on, right? So vendors can spend more of their time and energy on bringing in a security culture overall. Thirdly, from an organization perspective, organizations can look at bringing in more and more freshers, intelligent freshers. They can have any kind of a shortlisting methodology by getting them to do psychometric tests or analytical reasoning and whatnot. Yeah, the HR can have their own methods of shortlisting, really good candidates. But once that is done, they should have the method to be able to identify these individuals, look at their interest areas, and see how they can groom them within their organization. Now, how do you know which areas do you need to groom these individuals? You can have a pool of, let's say, 100 people who are shortlisted, but then you need to know where is your security demand lies. In a security organization within a company, you need to know where are those pain points to start with, more from a skill perspective. I'm not even talking about cybersecurity risk per se, but then they're all interrelated again, right? So if you say that you need more number of people in the SOC front, or you need more people on the governance, risk and compliance front, or you need people on the red teaming, penetration testing, vulnerability assessments, forensics, there's plenty of areas which you can pursue actually. So you need to have a very clear-cut skilling strategy, skill management strategy, to see how this can be addressed, right? And it cannot be a one-time activity. It has to be an ongoing activity, because there is this demand and supply issue globally. There is a huge demand for security professionals out there. Therefore, you will also notice that organizations are also at the same time seeing a huge attrition too in the process. Because if you look at it, especially from 2015 and 17 onwards, especially when ransomware became more and more prominent in the industry, right? It became much more widespread. It was heavily covered through social media and news and so on. Even boards started to talk about ransomware, and ransomware or cybersecurity became one of the top 3 risks for every organization, right? Ultimately, then CISO as a role became even more prominent than before. When CISOs had to sell security to the board in the yesteryears, now that is no more the case. Now board is asking, what do you want from us? How can we support? You tell us what are the risks that we're facing. Are we all good, right? That is what they're asking the CISOs. Now CISOs have all the liberty to actually explain to them where do they stand from a security posture perspective, and see how this kind of where and how cybersecurity investments can be done on that front, right? So that is where the skill management perspective lies. Now you will other thing is that especially if there are many freshers here in this forum listening to this, what you need to look at is that identify the area which you'll be passionate about. Let it be security coding, or penetration testing, or security operations center, threat intelligence. There are a lot of areas where there is a huge demand out there, and it is only going to grow over time, right? Because there is so much of requirement out there. I can tell you that irrespective of the domain that you pick within cybersecurity, you will still grow successfully, right? Now somebody can ask, okay, in that which is the topmost, which I can pick? There is nothing like that, because everything has to go hand in hand. Governance, risk and compliance has to go hand in hand with technical aspects of cybersecurity. When all of this is in place, you need to have auditors. When technology is there, there is going to be incidents. So you need investigators and and reporting happening. So you need a variety of skill set to be built into the skill management roadmap, and continuously pursued for each of these organizations. From a training standpoint, there are plenty of platforms out there which can be utilized to do actual hands-on training within the organization's boundaries itself. Okay, or else you can bring in instructor-led programs for training on any of these topics, right? Let it be ISO 27001 or penetration testing and whatnot. There are so many ways of getting the trainings done. Organizations need to keep aside a certain budget to look at to address the skill management aspect, right? It is not about just bringing in the goods resources. It is about seeing to it that they see a good career trajectory from a depth of knowledge perspective, as well as in their growth perspective from an expertise point of view as well. It should not be that we give them best in class training and they do not have a capability, they do not have an avenue to utilize that. Then that is again going to demotivate. Then you will lose a very good candidate out of that company, right? So it all has to go hand in glove, and only then a very good skill management program can work for any organization.
Yeah.
Right. So that's, I think that's in short what I wanted to cover in this topic, Shravan.
Great. Thanks, Manoj. Again, you also just manage your time well and got. Right. So thank you so much. And Manoj, to add to what you have said, yes, in the yesterday years, the overall budget that the company used to allot to the security practice was very less, and it was really difficult to manage the operations itself. But now the board itself is coming to the security teams and asking, you tell us what you want, we get that for you, be it from the operations perspective or the trainings, awareness, or the learning and development perspective for the team. So that is a really very good point. Thank you so much. So now I'll take up the questions from the chat box. We have a few of the questions. So first question is to Pawan from Pallavi. Considering that large number of private organizations, small to large size, are integrated into countries' critical infrastructure, how can companies with limited cyber capabilities ensure they don't compromise national security? Pawan, you are on mute.
Yeah. So interesting question. I think Pallavi has a habit of putting googlies. Yes, I know that. But yes, I think this was touched upon by me, and I think by Kazim also in some sense that it's a collaborative game. So it is not. It has to be top down as well as bottom up kind of a thing. Most of the critical infrastructure, like if you see in banking, BFSI domain, there are ISOCs and this thing where reporting is compulsory. If there is a breach, there are penalties of not reporting it. The same thing do not exist in other critical infrastructure domains, maybe like utility, or if you say logistics, or if you say any other kind of thing. So I think it's just a maturity curve. Yes, BFSI will always be matured, and yes, because they started seeing cyber risk and crime and everything, I think almost a decade and a half back. So I think they are much ahead in these terms. But yes, the same model needs to be replicated where collaboration happens. So if you identify a threat, whether it is a top-down threat or a bottom-up threat, whosoever identifies, that needs to be shared with industry, and that needs to be utilized. So that NCIIPC is a classic example. The whole mandate is that only. Actually, so that is what they are supposed to do, and they are taking steps towards that. Yes, we'll see results as we go ahead, but yes, every critical all the 10 domains of critical infrastructure needs to replicate this whole model. And when we start integrating SMEs into this whole structure, when they start getting starting to use this intelligence coming from government agencies, CERTINs and NCIIPCs, I think that is where the change will happen, and it will be a journey. It is not going to happen overnight. It may take some time, but yes, the directions in which we are moving is the right direction. It may take some time, but it is happening on that. I hope that answers Pallavi's question, I think, to some extent.
Right. So on a similar note, we have a similar question. I think it goes to you only, Pawan. This is from Anurag Sharma. So how do you see phenomenon of cyber deterrence playing a role in our national security?
I think cyber deterrence. Cyber is a fourth dimension of warfare. So like land, air, and water kind of thing. You need to have a proactive posture in any warfare. it's a fundamental. You cannot be looked as weak opponent. I think you will be attacked. Or aggression will be more. Like if you say a normal case, I think there are a lot of experts on India, China kind of thing. We have an aggressive posture, the results are different. If you have a defensive posture, the results are going to be different kind of thing. So I think cybersecurity warfare is also exactly same. It is fought on a different platform, but I don't think so. The fundamental of warfare has changed at all on that thing. So you need to have a very, very strong and capability for defending it, but as well as a very, very strong, because we have a maybe no first initiative policy as a country. But yes, we need to have a very strong deterrence that dare not touch us. Otherwise, will come back and really haunt you in your dreams. I think that posture has to be really, really aggressively. We don't create harm for you, but don't mess around with us. I think that posture and deterrence has to be created. And in some sense, if you don't see a lot of attacks happening on India infrastructure, in some sense that is already there. I'll like to believe that yes, posture is nobody can take it very lightly to just mess around with us, maybe at a border front or on a cyber front. I don't think so that can happen on that. But yes, there's always it has to improve, and it has to be made more robust as we go.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Pawan. So next question is from Shreyas Deshmukh. This question is for Dr. Lopa. How can organizations mitigate insider threats in this work from home scenario? Work from home is expected to continue to define work environment in future.
Very good question. One thing I would like to highlight first, mobile workforce is actually existing before the COVID situation. With the pandemic and post-pandemic, that is going to actually scale up like anything. That is the challenge we faced during the COVID pandemic initially, but it is scaled up. I think most of the organization already scaled it up. And with that, two things is very important. One is your entire workforce is working from home and accessing each and every asset from the home. Earlier, some of the asset may not be accessible from the home. Second thing is there is a huge shift happen. Most of the application move to the cloud. So it is, and also your third party is working from home, your support is working from home. So this is a manual is the most strongest or weakest link. So we can educate them, spread the awareness, and make them aware about how to handle it effectively and boost the security posture within the organization. Again, it's a combination of technology, process, and human, as well as what is the monitoring capability you are building. Earlier, the focus of your monitoring capability is your asset and your network, and your network vertically or horizontally cut across with your third parties. Now, your focus need to equally move to your endpoint. And the thing we need to adopt more effectively to handle that, how to do the reverse engineering if there is an issue happening in endpoint, which is actually sitting outside of your corporate environment, how to extend the support in case of any cyber issue or breach reported from an endpoint, how to handle that. Now coming to the employee part, right? So obviously we need to educate them very effectively, and we need to relook our employee as your asset uses of your asset policy, or your acceptable uses policy. In the situation currently we are going through, relook it and more effectively bind them with the legal requirement or legal aspect, bring that to the table, and spread that awareness that if anything happen, what is the consequence the people are going to face. Also ensure that when you are changing some particular way of your operation, you send the clear communication to the employee, as well as when you are monitoring them also, what you are monitoring, how you are monitoring, give a kind of briefing to them. So before they commit anything intentionally or unintentionally, they are going to be more careful.
Right. Thanks, Dr. Lopa. So there are a couple of open questions which I'll be directing to you people. I think I can decide whom to direct. So the first question is from Shaurya Khanna. I think Manoj, probably you can answer this. So when is VPN no longer useful? What can be done in such scenarios? This is a bit technical. I think you can answer that.
In what scenarios? I'm assuming in a work from home kind of a scenario.
Yeah. When is VPN no longer useful? What can be done in such scenarios? Like when VPN is not there, I think it would be more specific to ask you this way. Like when we are not using the VPN, how can we ensure the security of the data transfer between any 2 points?
Yeah. So I think VPNs has been, traditionally been used primarily to create that secure connectivity, right, to your enterprise environment. But if there is any, so we can use, methods like cloud proxy and stuff like that, where you can actually route your, your endpoint traffic, though it is initially connecting through your not so great home network, and then you are bound to hit your corporate environment, right? So earlier, how it used to happen is that most of us are within the corporate boundaries, always behind a firewall and the full layered security controls. But then now that scenario has changed, right? I mean, we have literally 100% workforce globally distributed and sitting outside the organization's boundaries. So in an event that you decide to take off VPN, then you need to look at how we can use cloud proxy based methodologies to be able to still enforce the required controls that you want for the data protection. But then it also has to come together with any other endpoint controls like DLP, encryption of the endpoint itself. And then together with that, you layer it with cloud proxy controls so that you can still continue to enforce, internet content filtering, like how you would from within the organization boundary. So all of these will come into play, and it will of course use you control disabling of you disable USB access to the system. Don't give local admin privileges so they don't install anything wrongful on the system. So it is not a single solution, a single bullet, silver bullet kind of a thing. It has to come together depending on what you're trying to achieve in this particular scenario.
Right, thanks. So there's another question for you, Manoj, from Pallavi.
Yeah.
So in this world of overload of certifications and courses, how can individuals and organizations tap into only the useful ones?
It's a good question. Now, I have some 10 plus or 12 certifications, right? So it depends on what is your, you as an individual to start with. What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve ultimately, right? If you ask me, I in different stages of my career, I've taken certain certifications with one primary intent of studying on a topic in a structured manner. That was my goal. Otherwise, what will happen is that you go to Google, you start reading on topic, you will see 10 other hyperlinks. You will go and you will be all over the place, right? So being able to study a structured syllabus, and then if you are able to crack that exam, you are actually hitting a certain baseline saying that, okay, I have done this, right? So that is one way of looking at it from an individual aspect, right? To take your knowledge level from point A to point B. Other aspect is for organizations to decide. Now, organizations, can decide on setting certain certification baselines to do even their hiring as well, right? For example, you can say that I would like to hire a candidate with 15 years experience in my team, and if there are two candidates with, let's say, for hypothetically with same level of experience, but if that second person has got a CISSP, there is a natural tendency for me to give that CISSP person a slightly higher weightage, because we know that that person has gained a certain broadness in a skill set, in spite of both of them having the same depth of knowledge. In this example I'm speaking, so it will change from organization to organization, their recruitment and skill management strategy also, to, so to speak, right? Now, if you are looking at grooming a team of penetration testers or red teamers and so on, you might look for people who have got full-fledged Python skills and OSCP certified folks and things like that, because we know that they have gone through the grind to do or to crack what they have to crack, right? So it all depends on how you want to consider certification as a criteria to for any form of decision making.
Right. Right. Thanks, Manoj. So, okay, before we end the session, I would like to take up a last question, and I would direct this question to Pawan. Right. So, will artificial intelligence fully automate cybersecurity, just like click, drag, drop visual programming, and which made the coder's job obsolete?
So a question is, will it make coders' job? Yeah, I think not only coders, there will be a lot of jobs which will get obsolete going in future. So, and anything which is mundane, which can follow a pattern, which can, so those are the first things which are going to get obsolete. But I think here, I think the fundamental point is not about what jobs. I think the jobs will change. So what currently coders are doing, or the currently what there are, any, for that matter, any other profession, yes, they will change the way they are. So it is going to more on a more higher up in a hierarchy, the lower level jobs in terms of what is standardized, whatever is mundane, what is logical, it is all going to get obsolete, not only in software or coders, in any gamut of any sphere of life what we see. But I think I think human being will evolve into a more next level kind of a thinking, more which is more intellectual based thinking based jobs. So that is going to happen. So it's an evolution which is happening with every industry. It will happen with coding industry also. I don't see it following a different pattern. But that doesn't mean coders will go away. They will start doing something next level on that.
Nice, great. So thank you so much, all the panelists, Pawan, Manoj, Dr. Lopa. Kazim is not here. I think we have one more question. Yeah.
I have a question, Shravan, actually. That's why. So it's directly to Dr. Lopa, and it's much more personal, I guess. But how do you promote? Because I know you're a woman in cybersecurity, and you've been here for nearly 2 decades now. How do you promote young females to join this field, which is considered very technical?
So when it is coming to the technology actually don't discriminate on gender, right? So when I came to this industry, there is a mindset of few people, because I came from IT background, IT security, then slowly moved to the governance part. So it is like that, cybersecurity working hours, right? That is something people think about. But when it is coming to the skill set, right? And it's completely depends what you want to be. And today in corporate environment, I think everybody is having the equal opportunity. That is not a challenge. But yes, if you like cyber, my clear communication to them is, if you really like cyber, there is nothing actually objecting you. First, as Manoj has mentioned, cyber is a huge field, right? So what you would like to do, opt it. And some cases, what I think that people feel that, how do you manage your home as well as your priority? Because some uncertainty in this particular field where you need to give a kind of, support to your team, you need to be available. So the way you prioritize the thing at your office based on the organizational needs and priorities, same way you need to prioritize the thing and set up the expectation at home. And if you can effectively manage that, that is not going to be hurdle. But yes, every home is having a different situation. So you need to create your support equipment everywhere. And then being a woman, you need a special treatment in cyber security. That is what I don't believe. I worked with a team where I don't have a single female member, but I don't have any challenge to work with them. I worked with the team which are kind of very balanced when it is coming to the equality and inclusiveness. There is no challenge. It does depend on the person how you are handling, but don't expect any special treatment being a woman. That is actually going to create the challenge.
Thank you, Dr.
Pallavi, that's a deep dive topic for March for you. But to be honest, I think I've personally been involved in mentoring many female cybersecurity professionals over time, and there is I think it's about just coming forward and pursuing this. So like I said, there is immense opportunities involved in this area, and there is nothing to nothing should hold you back from pursuing this career. There is so much it can offer, and it's a fantastic field, and it's only going to for bad or good, it's just going to get nastier and nastier day by day, right? So there is that need for all kind of security folks in the industry out there, and there is, I would see that organizations who are now having dedicated departments which does only analytics on diversity and inclusion, I think they will, those numbers will not be the same for cybersecurity over time, because at least for that area, it is going to change drastically, because I see more and more women, coming forward to, especially coming forward in the security front.
Only you need to focus on one thing. Cyber is a very dynamic field. So you need to continuously upgrade your skill, and you need to really invest time on that part.
Indeed.
Absolutely. I think just to add as an anecdotal thing, I think Pallavi and Shreyas will, this thing, we have something called as predictive risk intelligence team in our organizations. We have almost 17 people, and we have a problem of reverse diversity. We have only one male member. So I think anybody who's listening, if they are males, they will be given preferences if they want to join the team, I think. So we are trying to solve a different problem here. But as I said, it has not happened by design. It has just happened. So because it never mattered whether it is a male or a female. It has just happened like that. It is just a matter of. So I agree with Lopa. It really, technology knows no diversity. I don't think it doesn't belong to any gender. I think it is agnostic. I think it is our mindset which needs to change on that.
So Pallavi, one thing, there is a huge skill gap, huge scarcity of the skill. So there is a huge demand, right? When there is a huge demand and there is no resource pool available to fill up that gap, how you could pick up stating that I'm going to pick up women or men? It is based on the skill set and the competency level of the people.
Right. So there is one last question. Now I'm confused because all three of you have answered so many questions. There is one last question from Malvika. Any inputs on safety parameter of cloud versus server-based systems?
So can I take this question?
Yes, please.
Okay, so it is, don't think that, you are going to replicate the safety measures which we have in-house or server-based system. Look at those control or safety measures. Why you have put those control or safety measures? Look at the outcome or objective of that. Replicate that objective on cloud, not the safety measures or control.
Right. All right. It's been a wonderful session. Thank you so much, everyone, once again. And I'll hand over the session back to Pallavi now.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Shravan. And I would just say one thing is, I have one of my mentors here on the panel. So Pawan sir has mentored being gender agnostic. So I will say that, it is always about the mindset. So yeah, that is more of my person. But thank you so much to, I know Kazim's not here, but I'll thank him first. But yeah, Kazim, Dr. Lopa, Pawan sir, as well as Manoj for joining us today, and for Shravan to moderating this session. Like I said at the start, right, we want to have very diverse discussions on cyber, physical, everything, because I think a lot of it is interconnected, which is very clear from the questions we've had. So, like I said, we have very interesting sessions coming up. Keep a tab of our social media pages. And thank you again to all the participants for their questions and joining us and staying till late. So thank you, everyone. Take care and have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a great year ahead.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much.
Thank you.